Go ahead, over.
Good morning, Patricia. Hi, David. We've got the morning
Yeah, I bet before not too long you'll be complaining that you're not seeing the sun and you've had too much rain, over.
Well, it'd be nice today. We did have good rain, but we certainly haven't had
Yeah, we had a look last night where you were on the satellite thing that gives the winds. Boy, you've certainly had a lot of wind, over. Yeah, boy, there was boy, some of the wind barbs that we saw scooting through there. You really had to be in a good wind shadow to enjoy Fiji at the moment. Oh well, I'm sure you're finding things to do. And good morning to everybody that has joined us. I'm just chatting to Toranui up there, and also I've heard Eye Candy and Villamy. We've got quite good reception today, so that's pretty good. It was quite funny yesterday, though. We've got about a 50-50 draw between the two frequencies. Thank you to those folk who gave us some information there. So we'll see what happens going towards the half hour this morning. We don't have the temperatures that you've got. We are back to 13 degrees here. It's gone to the southwest, not much. A couple of knots from the southwest. Miss Murphy is in, by the way, at Opua. 1026.3 and rising on the bar, 80% cloud cover. And Bonaire, they've got about 190 miles to go, and they've still got northeast at the moment, so very light. So a pretty pleasant arrival for the boats that were coming down. We still have no information, folks, on this missing raft, life raft, the Revere life raft that has been found. So if anybody does know anything about that or hears anything from any of your friends on passage, please let us know. It does cause concern when a life raft is found, and we don't know who it's from. I don't think our life raft had our name on it, did it? You know, you've got names on things like the slings, but often there's no name on the life raft, particularly if it's a Belize type one. So it's a fairly newish one. Well, obviously never been used except for when it got in the water, and no sign of anyone trying to get into it. So please let us know if you have missed overboard or somebody you know has lost overboard a Revere 6-person life raft. Okay, is there anyone? Oh, we've got Alvy. We haven't heard from Alvy, who's coming north. Anybody on passage at the moment that wants to tell us what their weather's like, or let us know where they are so we make sure that we cover that in the weather? Please call now. I think we've got Japanese or something like that, and so this might be an occasion to move to 8297. Could I have a signal report, please? Well, you've just dropped away, Graham. I think I heard you say that it was clear up where you are. Is that correct? Okay, well, let us know, folks. They're gabbling away in my background here, but I guess it's more important for you to hear the weather than it is for us to try and work out what they're trying to say. No sign of Alvy, but she's out there somewhere, plodding her way north. Okay, let's move on to a little bit of news. I'm going to be very, very brief on the news this morning because I want to cover in more detail a very interesting email that we got from one of the round the world single-handers. So I will go on to that after the brief summary of not very exciting news. The news from Indonesia is pretty bad. That tsunami and earthquake. It's well over 1,200 people dead now, and it's a bit of a struggle trying to get help to them. LAX Airport, LA International Airport, will now allow you to move through their airport with marijuana in the carry-on. You're not allowed to smoke it at the airport because the passing flight crew wouldn't want to breathe it in, but you are allowed now to have marijuana in your carry-on. For those French listeners that we have here, Charles Aznavour, I think he was Armenian, born in Armenia, but he was certainly considered a Frenchman. Wonderful singer, sort of like the French equivalent of Frank Sinatra. Anyway, he died 94, good age. And very exciting news for the visitors to Russia, the 2019 Putin calendar is out. I tried to get that when I was there, but it hadn't come out yet. This is every month is different with Mr. Putin. In one of his activities, he has many outdoor activities, and he's certainly got an amazing upper body physique for a man of 68, well, for any man actually. And so every year this calendar comes out. It must sell millions. It probably helps their national debt, because certainly the Russians get it, and of course the millions of tourists that come get it as well. So anyway, the 2019 Putin calendar is out. Unfortunately, I won't be able to get it here, but anybody that visits Russia, if it doesn't sell out, you'll be able to get a copy of that. Amazon may have it. I wonder if they do. It might be something for Jacinda to consider for our national debt. She could have pictures of her cuddling Neve at the UN, and her and Clark Gayford wandering down with the pushchair down in New York there. I wonder how many people would buy it. It doesn't really have the same sort of allure as the Putin calendar, does it?
I don't think so.
No, probably a few grandmothers would be all that would be wanting that. All right, so we'll not make that suggestion. For those of you knowing people in the Baja in Arizona, tropical depression Rosa is about to make landfall, which is going to dump an awful lot of rain on the Baja and then move on to northern Arizona. That's about it, because I want to talk about this passage that Suzanne in the vessel Nihaj. It's an 11.9 metre cutter, and a lot of you are considering getting your boats ready for a passage. Well, this is a rather large passage. She's now on her 107th day at sea. She's about 1,300 miles west of the western side of Australia, Perth area. She's at 39 south and 88 west, actually. And she got to use her Jordan Drogue, and I know probably a lot of you have come a long way, will have the Jordan Drogue. It's sort of a standard piece of equipment now, certainly is on board Chameleon. But I just want to cover what happened with her and what she did and so on and so forth, because it's very interesting. She was actually pretty slow, because she'd had a couple of weeks almost doing no speed at all in that area. You can get all or nothing in that area. And the first thing she commented on was the problem with gooseneck barnacles. This was the last time she arrived in New Zealand. She had gooseneck barnacles almost the size of lettuce heads, but she's really got the problem this time, because she can't get under the boat to do anything about it. It's either too windy or the seas are really bad. But it's really slowing her down. She's got an alloy boat, so there's no copper in the bottom paint, and she has noticeable weather helm. And if it gets too bad, she can lose 1 to 1.5 knots of speed. And I guess on a passage from Fiji to New Zealand, that's not going to make a hell of a difference. But certainly when you're going around the world, it makes a big difference. It's a damn shame she can't harvest them, because evidently these gooseneck barnacles are a delicacy in France and Portugal. They get up to 48 euros a kilogram. They grow quite big, sort of around the 15 centimetre size. So, but you can't really harvest them, and she can't harvest them where she is at the moment, which is a bit of a nuisance. Anyway, getting on to the weather, and you will recall last week that there was a big drama way west of Australia there, because all of the boats got in, well, not all of them, there was a group of them got into this very, very big storm. It was a Force 11 storm, and it was certainly not nice. Fortunately for Suzanne, she's an absolutely amazing sailor. She was in fact it was earlier this year, she was the first woman to go through the Northwest Passage east to west. She just got through, actually. And she writes very well. She's a German lady, but she writes also in English, which is very, very useful. Kind of interesting because her husband is a single-hander too. I suppose, well, we've got two brothers single-handing in different boats in our area, haven't we? So I suppose it's not too unusual for a husband and wife to be single-handing. But last year, well, earlier than this year, she was going through the Northwest Passage and he was somewhere down the opposite end of the globe. Anyway, back to the weather where she was, and this was towards the end of September. So she fortunately is in contact with a very helpful ham radio operator who gave her a warning about the low. And she's certainly got a lot of confidence in this fellow. And she has the philosophy that it's better to deploy the Jordan Drogue, and if it only turns out to be a Force 4, then okay, we'll bring it back. But if it turned out, as in this case, to be a Force 11, then, and these things happen very fast there. So she did, in fact, deploy the Drogue. But let me take you through the steps that happened. On the Wednesday, she got to hear about this low that was forming. So she, in fact, used up a lot of water to do some washing, and then because she knew the rain was coming. So on Thursday, she got a pretty decent blow from the north, and then it calmed down a bit. So she was able to bring the Aries. She has an Aries autopilot, and she got the paddle below deck, and she absolutely secured everything that could possibly move on the deck, put it all below. She collected water actually when it calmed down a bit to replace what she had used, and then she went off to bed, and it was still quite calm. Well, before long it was a howling gale. What had happened was this low, it was an amazing low, 977, and it was 150 miles to the south. But what was causing the major problem was a high, a 1027 high, 50 millibar difference, and it was only 466 miles from the low. So you're dealing with a huge pressure gradient. And the ham radio operator had told her about this on, in fact, a Tuesday night. He predicted west-northwest to start with, 50 to 60 knots, and that would be at night time, which is why she got the Drogue in the water. Had to be careful getting into the water because she was a little bit slow and had to feed it out slowly to make sure nothing tangled around the propeller and everything. And then he predicted that the wind would go to the south-southwest, and in the morning it would be in about the 40th mark. So she was going to be dealing with a Force 11, mostly during the night. So daylight revealed that was everything was happening as predicted, and she certainly got to be quite scared. I might add, she had actually rolled her previous boat in this particular area, so she knew what she was dealing with. The surface of the sea, I'm reading this, was streaked in white. Enormous breakers were visible all around, and when one of them wanted to overrun Mihaj, water spit over the transom and the spray was carried forward to well ahead of the bow. Then the 22mm ropes of the bridle, talking about the Jordan Drogue bridle, and of the leader got under tension and were visible for 20 meters. The actual cones and the end weight stayed way down in deep water, acting like a huge bungee, stopping us softly from pitch-poling. Our speed never exceeded 4 knots, and the rudder always had a positive flow through the water. Only once the cockpit flooded completely, which was a good test for the heavy aluminium door and the new door handles made by the Lunenburg foundry. She had her boat really well prepared before she left. She did not hear at that stage of the 4 other boats in the area, and certainly was hoping that they had the Jordan on board. Anyway, she finally, when there was enough daylight, got on deck to have a look at the breakers, 2 meters high, running for over 10 meters, and leaving a gurgling light blue field behind. And she tidied up a few things and then went below to hear about the other boats. One very seriously injured person got rescued eventually, and one got taken off his boat where everything had been knocked off the mast, etc. And 2 others are carried on. So she certainly dealt with it incredibly well. So on the Saturday, she said it took her 3 hours to bring in the drogue, first over the winch and then hauling in hand over hand. So, and after that she was able to open the water intake, put the Yanmar on because everything had calmed down reasonably well. And she got to, she was actually on watch with the Australian Coast Guard in case she was needed, but there were in fact other boats around. There was the French research vessel Osiris that reached the chap that was very injured, and then they got the Australian Navy boat in. So I thought it was just worthwhile going through that, because you will be preparing your boats for passage. You're not going to get, particularly if you take all the weather helps that you've got. You've got Gulf Harbour Radio, you've got the weathergram on Sundays, you've got lots of cribs, and where you are in most places you've got the internet to check weather. You're not going to get Force 11 on your trip, and it's going to be a much shorter trip than going around the world. But it is, I thought, useful to just reflect a little bit on what these boats have to prepare for when they are out there, thousands of miles away from anyone. And, you know, the Jordan drogue doesn't do much use if it's down below and things come up very quickly. I know on Chameleon we have ours ready to drop at the back of the boat. It's in its own container, and everything, you know, has been set up to deal with that. We used to, in fact, have a sea anchor, but as we got older, we knew that we were not going to be going forward to deal with that. A lot of people, in fact, also have that laid out along the side of the boat ready to drop, but it does need a bit more attention with chafe and so on. So we decided to leave that one at home and just deal with the Jordan drogue. But I have to say also that it has never been put in the water, but it's there in case it's needed. So yeah, a good review on that one, and I realise I've just gone over time, so I better get this microphone back to David, and I'm just checking that there is nothing much coming through here on, no, nothing much. There is pretty nice weather now down in Berlanga. Four Seasons reporting 14 to 17 knots from the east, 50% cloud cover. That sounds very pleasant. And up there at Wunder, light winds, so everything has got a bit better. A lot of noise on 8752, so Trevor's going to stay on streaming. Could I just get a quick report to see if anybody wants me to move to 8297? It happens very quickly, so if you'd like me to move to 8297, please let me know right now. Four Seasons, go ahead. Okay, thanks, Mark. Okay, folks, we're going to 8297. 8297, and I'm passing the microphone to David. For horses. Okay.
You can put the satellite on the tree.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Hopefully everybody has switched over, and it sounds like our antenna has done its thing, and we're ready to go. So we're going to start off by looking at the synoptic picture this morning. Now, this is a combination of my interpretation of satellite imagery and charts from New Zealand Met Service. Now, to begin with, our big fat high is centered roughly at 3.3 and 165 west. If you have the internet, you could see the rotation of cumulus and stratocumulus cloud, and you can pick out the center of this high. Verification then is to look at New Zealand's analysis, since you're on the internet, and that will match up fairly well if you're careful enough to do this. Next, we've got a developing depression that's south of New Caledonia, and it is roughly 2.5 south and 1.63 east. And looking at satellite imagery, you could see cyclonic cloud rotation right around that position. And this, of course, matches the New Zealand chart, which also shows a trough that's arcing north-northeast, which puts it more or less between Vanuatu and Fiji. And you can pick this up, this particularly wide cloud band, on the Himawari satellite that you're getting on the internet. Now, NOAA retransmits this imagery. This is a Japanese satellite, and it is color-coded. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a quickie course on what to look for in terms of the color that you'll see on the Himawari. Now, the reddish areas that you see are generally very high ice clouds, mostly cirrus, probably at the 250 millibar level, would be 200, 250, 300 millibar, right in there. The yellow usually indicates very thick cloud, but also quite high. So that's thick cloud and quite high. And the green colors are thick cloud, but low level cloud. And these are the ones that are going to be producing quite a bit of the rain you see. So with a little bit of practice and with the use of the internet, you can do quite a bit of your own analysis. Also, cumulus cloud caught up in cyclonic rotation, they look like little donuts, more or less. It's the best way to describe it, really. Kind of a white circular donut shape, clear in the center. However, anticyclonic cumulus, going the other way, they look like small blobs, basically a donut that's been filled. So even if you don't have a loop to see the actual rotation or the movement of these clouds, by the shape of the cumulus clouds, you can tell whether or not you're looking at cyclonic or anticyclonic conditions. Okay, enough of that, and hopefully that's helpful to you. But we'll look now at leaving Fiji or Tonga on Friday. Like I promised you, we've got quite a few people that are chomping at the bit to get going in both locations. Now, I'm putting the arrival on or about the 12th of October. You know, a lot of you will be faster than this. This is based on a 6-knot average speed, 144 miles a day. And looking at Friday of this coming week, the date that you want to report, Fiji and Tonga, well, they look to entertain a frontal band that's extending north from the depression that we just talked about that's currently south of New Caledonia. So this low is slowly moving to the southeast, and it's extending its frontal band to the north. And that's just, unfortunately, exactly what's going to happen about that Friday time frame. Now, by the 5th, the low will have shunted southeast to be centered roughly 3.3 and 177 east. So you can see its approximate location more or less south of Fiji. Now, winds over Tonga will be northerly quadrant on that Friday, light and variable over Viti Levu and Kendavu. So not really too bad, but by Saturday at 20 south, and that's pretty much where the boats from Fiji are going to be, 20 south, and those of you that are leaving from Tonga, well, if you're at Tonga Tapu, you're already near 20 south. But anyway, at 20 south, leaving from Fiji, you should see southeast winds to maybe east-southeast. Again, that's south of Fiji. Now, south of Tonga Tapu, you'll still, I'm afraid, enjoy some of the remnants of that frontal band. Winds will probably be south-southeast. It really depends on what your longitude is. Some people like to get a little bit of easting. Some people like to do westing. But if you were to do a run line, that's about what you would see, I think, south-southeast. Now, Monday, moving along, Monday on the 8th, the winds between 25 south and 28 south look to be fairly light to moderate, we'll call it, east-southeast. By Wednesday, the 10th, at 30 south, and that's about where you would be doing your little 6 knots, the winds, I believe, will be easterly, give or take on that direction. Again, it depends on your longitude. Now, there is some discrepancy now between the models on the 10th. And on the 10th, you're going to be very, very close to New Zealand. We could see southeast winds, but in any case, the winds look fairly moderate, and I would say in the 15-knot range. Also on the 10th, GFS shows the frontal band arriving over New Zealand, and that, of course, is going to be preceded by northwest winds, not the south-southeast that some of the other models are calling off. And those winds are going to be upwards of 25 knots. So we do have some disagreement with the models on the arrival date, and this is on or about the 10th. So we will just have to see what happens at that point. Now, on the 11th, that's Thursday, GFS shows the band actually clearing the North Island, and that's going to be followed by southwest winds about 25 knots. And by Friday, if you're slower, Friday the 12th, southwest as well, about 15 to 20, and all that is due to the new high that's coming in. Now, EC does not call that off. EC has a totally different view of that particular time frame. So basically, the all-important arrival date is in question at this point in time. Now, the models that I'm using are all current as of this morning, and what I will do during the day is take a look at the changes that occur. We're going to see 4 to 6 model runs between now and when we talk to you tomorrow morning. So tomorrow, being Thursday, I'll do this all over again, and we'll look to see what this passage looks like based on the most current model runs. I was a little bit disappointed to see the fairly vast discrepancy on the arrival date. Now, granted, 10 days from now is beyond what one would expect to be truly accurate data from these models, but I would have expected them to be a little bit closer on what the conditions are going to be. So anyhow, I'll be looking very closely and let you know. It's still some time for those that want to leave Friday. So tomorrow morning, we'll do it again, see what we've got. Okay, briefly now to Tonga, where there's plenty of cloud approaching from the east. Nui Tupatapu still entertains the trough that's up there, but the main group shows just cloudy periods with a chance of scattered showers, not too bad at all. The winds do remain pretty strong, east to east-northeast, about 25 knots. And tomorrow, I would say northeast. There'll be a shift to the northeast, and they will be fairly strong as well, 20 to 25 knots. But Friday, the departure date, looks pretty good. We're going to see northerly quadrant winds on Friday, and they will have dropped down considerably. I'm thinking the 10 to 15 knot mark. So that's a pretty good wind direction and pretty mellow for leaving Tonga. Over to Fiji, where we've got a trough that's approaching the country from the west. And believe me, if you look at satellite imagery like I'm doing right now, you'll see some huge cloud clusters. This is definitely a mesoscale convective complex. Now, I will discuss this another day. We've had a few people say, what in God's name is that? And essentially, they're clusters of thunderstorms. But I'll give you a little bit more detail on that another day. Suffice it to say, if you were to look at it on satellite imagery, it's a huge area. It covers 6 to 7 degrees distance-wise, over 400 nautical miles, in other words, of clusters of thunderstorms. And they are bringing very, very heavy rain with them, and the downflow winds are usually quite strong. So that's heading toward Toranui. Graham, you'll have to give me a heads up on what kind of rain that you get there in the Osawas on this. It looks like there'll be plenty of it. I don't think we'll have any complaints about lack of rain after this. In any case, Fiji Met continues with its strong wind warning as well. They're calling off east to northeast winds 20 to 30. Now, in addition to this eastward moving trough and cluster thunderstorms, the trough that's over Rotuma is actually drifting south, and that's going to punch up northern Fiji. So there's a real double whamming that's going to happen there in Fiji. So I hope everybody is somewhat prepared for that. Now tomorrow, expect basically northeast winds, and they'll be in the 20 to 30 knot area, and obviously rough to very rough seas. So there's going to be plenty of cloud and showers for the next 2 days, and strong winds, of course. And those strong winds, apart from downflow winds from these thunderstorms, winds are strong also from the high as to the south. Now, my view of tomorrow, I think we're going to see a bit of an easing of these northerly quadrant winds. Fiji Met has still got very, very strong warnings out for tomorrow, but I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit lighter than that. So we've got a little disagreement between them and my own analysis here. I think we'll be seeing about 15 knots or so. So a little bit different. We'll see what happens. However, Friday does show fairly light air, quite variable winds, in fact. Depending upon where you leave from, they could be from almost any direction, northeast, north, northwest. It just depends where you are. But the point is, they're fairly light. And my guess is if you do go on Friday, you'll be motoring until you get a little bit further south. Over to Vanuatu now. Vanuatu looks finally pretty good on satellite imagery. Mostly fair with scattered cloud here and there. Wind south to south-southwest, light to moderate. I'll call for about 10 to 15 knots thereabouts. Tomorrow, mostly southerly quadrant, and they'll be remaining light, still about 10 to 15. And then Friday, a bit of a shift to the southeast, also light air. So we'll stick with about 10 to 15 knots for Friday as well. So not bad conditions for Vanuatu. And finally, over in New Caledonia, imagery looks great this morning, mostly fair conditions. Scattered cloud is coming in from the south, and those clouds are outflow from the developing depression that we talked about a little bit earlier. Now that depression is not going to bother New Caledonia, but cloud from that will be heading up toward the southern lagoon, but not much of it. Today, the winds by lunchtime in the lagoon area should be southwest in the 15 knot range. Southerlies tomorrow, mostly 15 knots as well, but there may be areas of 15 to 20. Friday now looks great. So those that want to get in that southern lagoon over to Wa and other beautiful little ilos, I think Friday will be a great day for that. Light southeast winds, maybe getting up to 15 knots. And Saturday, better yet, easterlies, the wind's going to back a little bit, and they'll be about 10 to 12 knots on Saturday. So that's the story. I wish I could give you passage yachts some better information on your arrival. Now, if you're a little bit faster than that 6 knots that I'm using for this analysis, you probably would get into New Zealand even before that frontal ban, if that does actually occur. But if you're slower, then we've got that iffy situation. But things are changing pretty rapidly, and we'll let you know tomorrow. So that's all I've got. Any questions or comments, come now, and I'll pass it over to Patricia.
Well, this is very fluid, I must say. I bet Q is having a good, they would have left the loyalties yesterday or today to get up to Efate. That's about the only decent looking passage I see on the satellite picture at the moment. So good sailing to you guys, and haven't heard any questions come in. There have been a couple of comments come in because the users of YIT will have got a email to say that your 1 month free trial has finished. I need to clarify that again because some people have been away from the news. As you know, YIT was established probably 6 years ago in support of Gulf Harbour Radio to help us know where boats were and get information from them and so on and so forth. And it has been very useful for that purpose for us. Unfortunately, all that came to a rather abrupt halt in April of this year when Mike decided to align with Predict Wind and make the site more commercial. He needed to do that because we had relied on donations, and there are significant costs in running websites, servers, etc., etc. Also, Gulf Harbour has all of the same sorts of problems now. So to make him able to cover costs, he has changed the whole system for YIT, and you now need to subscribe. If you are somewhere at the moment where you can't do that on the internet, then just send him an email. But just to clarify, Gulf Harbour Radio and YIT are no longer related. I am still able to put positions on boats that are on YIT. I can put those positions on for people that don't have email at sea or can't do it for some reason. That's not a problem. But we are no longer connected. So we had to establish our own website because all of the stuff that we had on YIT got erased. So we have our own website, www.ghradio.co.nz. So you can find all of the weather papers and communication papers and different things like that on our website. And also there's a page if you would like to make a kind donation, that would be good. It is totally voluntary on Gulf Harbour Radio. Obviously anybody can pick up, turn on the radio or look at YouTube and listen to our broadcasts. So there's no way we can do anything like that, nor would we. It was and is and will continue to be a voluntary service from David and myself. But if you want to use YIT, then you need to now start subscribing. All right. Anything else? I don't think there's anything else that's come up on. Chantel left an hour ago. Thank you, James and Chantel. All right. And it looks rather good for your passage, so you'll be pleased you waited a day. Okay, cheers, everybody. I will put out one final call. Is there anybody with anything? Oh, there is Alve. Well, good morning to you. And tell me where you are, first of all. Okay, just check, is it 179er or 175 west, over? 179 west. Okay, we have Alve, and I'm just abbreviating this for David so he can look at what is ahead for you. 2638 south, 179er, 17 west. And how's everything going, over? Okay, you faded away then. Peter did tell me that your radio comes in and out. Did I get the position roughly correct? Over. Okay, I'm just passing the microphone to David so that he can have a look at what you're doing there. I know your boat speed will be in the 4-knot bracket there. Just tell me, is all well on board? Over. Okay, just stand by. And yep, there's 17 people on board Elvay for this trip north. So I'm sure they're all got their sea legs now. Here is David. Don't forget the different languages.
Right, okay. Well, Elvay, you are going to unfortunately be encountering some of the funnel band that's extending north from the depression that I described in my weather broadcast a few minutes ago. So your winds, depending upon what your longitude is going to be tomorrow, I would say around 25 south and close to the date line in any case. You'd be looking at northerly quadrant winds, and these winds could be 25 to 30 knots in this frontal band. So be prepared for that, and once you get through, which will happen fairly quickly, the winds will shift into a more favorable direction for you. Light and variable, actually, once this goes through, but tomorrow, late tonight into tomorrow, you're going to be entertaining that band, I'm afraid. Over.
Okay, well, at least you know what's coming up, so hopefully today you can get a few more miles under your belt and get ready for that. All right, nice to hear from you, and your signal is coming through not too bad at all, so that's good. You're up in a decent area for contacting us on 8 megs now. I will give you a call again tomorrow. All right, is there anybody else with anything? I'll clear with Elvay. Anybody with anything? Sorry, say, what was your question? Okay, can anybody help me with the question? I'm just not picking up what she is asking. You go ahead. Oh, what time to communicate with us? Well, I will give her a call probably about half an hour before the half hour, so that we know where they are. We will be covering the weather in their area. We will be covering the weather in your area, Elvay, because you are on the passage route. So we will be covering that, but I will just see if I can make contact with you probably about the 25 past time frame. So if you could just be near the radio about then. If I don't copy you then, we will give you a call after David has finished the weather. Is that clear? Over. Okay, we'll talk to you tomorrow. I think that's what you said, and thanks for the relay there. She's just a little bit light for me. Okay, is there anybody else? All right, folks, if you want to make contact with each other, probably best to go back to 8752, and we'll again have a review of what's going on. It looks like 8752 is good in the east, Tonga, but towards the west, Fiji and Newcastle, it's better on this one. So it's going to be a bit of a juggling act. And I hear it's Chinese, not Japanese, so apologies to the Japanese. So this frequency is now clear, and have a good day, everybody. Cheers all. I'm on net control.